and welcome to another episode of the Personal PR Show. And today we are here with Coen, all the way from Singapore. Coen, welcome to the Personal PR Show.
Hello, Jessica, and thank you very much for having me on this show. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are coming from. So it's a pleasure to be on this show.
This is amazing, Coen. Thank you so much for making the time. What time is it in Singapore right now?
It's around 6 p.m. So yeah, just about time to get a gin and tonic.
Exactly. Where's your glass?
Not yet. Maybe I'll have it after this call.
Mm.
I'm actually planning to go exercise after this call, so then perhaps after dinner.
Right. Okay, cool. So we'll give you a lot of energy now in this interview, right? So then you feel ready to go to the gym.
Feeling the energy.
Yeah, let's give you sending you all of the energy from all over the world. Please, guys, let's all send Coen energy all the way to Singapore.
A power whoosh. I'm feeling it.
Yes. Good. Awesome. Yes, I definitely need energy before working out. I usually drink coffee before working out, but I do work out in the morning, so that's easier. Okay, cool. So, Coen, I have to tell you that Pallavi is watching us from India. And by the way, this is something that we do every now and then. We just provide the link of our Zoom room. We provide it to our friends that are watching us on Facebook. So if they want, they can join us. So join us if they want on Zoom. If they don't want, of course, they can stay on Facebook. They can ask questions on Facebook. But if they want to ask questions and they want us to hear them and also to see them, then it's possible as well. They can join us here. Okay, cool. So Pallavi, let's see what you want to do, where you want to follow our conversation. But Coen, so I'm so excited to have you here because we could talk about so many things with you. It's incredible. You have so many topics. You're an expert in so many fields. But today we decided to focus on you being a jet setter when it comes to public speaking. So basically you public speak and you travel the world at the same time. I heard that you've spoken on cruises and you've traveled to so many places, so many different countries as well, outside of Asia too. You are a public speaker in 2 languages, English and Chinese as well. Oh my God. I mean, just in this particular field, the field of speaking, there's so much to learn from you. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time. So how did you get started as a speaker?
Oh, okay, great. How do I get started? I remember in the final year of university, I was going through some personal challenges, and it was a very dark period of my life, and I was really at a crossroad, and I was also questioning myself, like, what is it that I really want to do? And it is at a period of time when I actually attended programs, courses, and I've seen speakers speaking on stage, and I was just very, very inspired. And I had this dream in me that one day I will also be able to inspire people through the spoken word, through what I have to share. And so that's always been a dream of mine, and it's been a long journey towards getting to where I got to. Sometimes, I don't give myself enough credit, and I'm just really, really, blessed to be able to do this as a living and to be able to share my message with people around the world.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, this is amazing. And tell us a little bit about the places that you've been to over the past few years, especially prior to COVID, right? You were traveling all the time.
Yeah. In fact, in 2019, I was traveling about 130 days. It may not sound like a lot to some people, but I was traveling most of the time, about a third of the time. And there was this, I just love, traveling and meeting people from different cultures. For me, I really love listening to stories of different people because I feel very enriched, just being able to, harness the stories of different people. I'm sure you also know a friend of ours called Carrie Phipps, right? And so I also guest write on a book, which is Do Talk to Strangers. And I shared stories of how random people I meet on the streets, Uber drivers, just interesting people I meet at the airport, and we strike up a conversation, and we became lifelong friends. And so I really enjoy that's a part of traveling that really, really nourishes my soul. And every time I travel, it's one thing to travel to a place and be a tourist. It's another thing to travel to another place and be a speaker. because when you travel to a different place, you bring a part of your story, you bring a part of yourself with you, you bring your own lenses to look at things, and then you get challenged by talking to people and hearing how they see things from different lenses. It just really challenges the way you look at life, challenges your perspective, and it makes me very, very humble. Right. And I realized that I get to learn a lot as well from the people I meet. And at the end of the speeches I give, or even in workshops, people will come up to me and share their own personal stories, their own challenges, and ask for advice and all that. But when they share with me their own stories, it allows me a deeper understanding into their lives as well, like how their challenges are unique perhaps to their culture. But overall, I would say that it makes me feel more human and more connected, because humans are humans, regardless of which culture, language, ethnicity, groups that you come from. We all have similar human challenges, issues. We all have similar stories to share, and I find that incredibly enriching.
Yes, no, definitely. Oh my God, yes. And by the way, this is one of the ways that we met. We met right through our common friend, Kerry.
Yes.
No, actually, you introduced me to Kerry. What am I talking about? No, what was it like? Did she introduce me to you or the other way around?
I honestly couldn't remember, actually. Actually, it doesn't really matter to me, because I think when amazing people meet, it's just, we just hit off so easily.
Yeah, no, that's true. But the Virgo in me is looking for for the right sequence. I think it was Kerry, and yeah, Andy Lopata connected me to Kerry, and then Kerry connected me to you and to Ganesh as well. Exactly. Yes, guys, this is the Singapore cruise. So every time I went to Singapore, prior to COVID, of course, during my 6 years of Singapore Airlines, and I was there at least once a month, we would all get together. And Kerry, who's actually in Australia, happened to be in town all the time, right? In Singapore. Yes. That was amazing. And I have to say that I saw you guys more often than actually my friends in Zurich. Can you imagine? Although I was living here, but Singapore was my second home. Oh my God, I love Singapore. I miss Singapore. Okay.
Yes.
And so when you got started in as a public speaker, were your first engagements rather local? And if so, then how did you expand to being an international speaker? How did it happen? How long did it take?
Okay, great. I think here's the thing I want to dispel, right? A lot of people want to become speakers. And they want to become speakers for one of three reasons usually. And one of the reasons is they had a moment. Perhaps one day they were showering, or perhaps they were just, going through life, and suddenly this moment where they suddenly think, I want to do something more meaningful with my life. Maybe I have a story to share, I have a message to share, I want to share my story. Maybe they have a moment. Maybe the second reason why people want to become speakers is maybe they had a mess, right? They go through a messy relationship. They went through a toxic work experience. They went through something that really was a great setback and adversity for them. And so they think that, since I had this mess, I want to share this story with other people. And the third one, I think, is that they had this mission. Maybe they feel very strongly about a particular topic, a subject, right? It could be, reducing carbon emission. It could be, women in leadership. It could be, and how dogs can really teach us about leadership. Whatever that mission they have is, right? However, these three M's, the moment, the mess, and the mission, are somewhat limited in terms, in propelling us towards becoming a professional speaker. Why do I say that? Is just because you have a mess, or you had a moment, or you had a mission, doesn't mean that everyone wants to listen to that, right? So we need to be able to couch that what we have to share in a way that is relevant to people. And I think relevant is a very big missing piece. So for that, my mentor, Steve Lowell from Canada, shared with us that these three M's are limiting, and we need to have a fourth M. And the fourth M is actually message. And you need to have a very powerful and strong message. And most importantly, to me, I feel you need to have a relevant message. In the earlier years of my speaking journey, I struggled very, very badly. So much so that I was almost going to give up. because I have to take on, other jobs just to make ends meet. I wasn't getting booked. I wish to say that, I decided I was going to become a speaker, and then my phone is ringing nonstop and people are inviting me to speak. I'm sorry to say it doesn't work like that. And that was the reason, because I was blinded by my own passion. I thought I had a moment, I had a mess, and I had a mission, and I was so blinded by that I couldn't see that people are not booking me to speak. It's because I didn't have a relevant message. So I was given a lot of opportunities to speak at schools, but they were not paid gigs. They were kind of like, hey, Coen, can you do this for free? Because it will give you exposure. And at the time, I was so passionate about what I have to share that I was like, okay, for sure. It's like, I will do it for free. But meanwhile, I still have bills to pay. And I think the worst moment was when I had to actually, I really was literally broke. And I mean it, I'm not lying when I say I was literally broke. I had to borrow money from my mom just to buy food. And that was when I was around 30 years old. And you just think about it, right? That was really the turning point. It was a moment of real embarrassment. A 30-year-old man, university graduate, having to borrow money from mom just to buy food. And I realized that, the shit just got real. I'm sorry for using a not safe for work language, but the shit just got real, because I'm like, dude, this is not going to work if I continue being blinded by my own passion. And so I started getting really serious about learning the business of speaking. I needed to take on a very different mindset, right? So at the time, I joined this group called the Asia Professional Speakers, which is a speakers association. That was really very helpful for me in terms of my growth. I met mentors who showed me the ropes. But being me, I was still very stuck in my own passion. At first, when I joined that association, I was inspired by the big names speakers, people who are very famous, people who are very successful speakers there. But at the same time, my ego also got in the way. I felt very small. I felt so small, that I used to actually resent going to these meetings, because when I look around me, I feel like I'm the smallest person in the room. And so much so that my ego took a hit. And my ego was the one that tells me, Coen, forget this, this is not for you. But I had a shift the moment I had to borrow money from my mom to eat, because I realized that, dude, either you bury the dream, or you buck up and get real. And so that was the moment I needed to eat humble pie. I started, instead of comparing myself with other people and feeling small, I thought to myself, I was going to have a learning agenda. I was going to think to myself, hey, if I am the smallest person in the room, why not learn from them? It just means that I have the most to gain from learning from these people. And so I went from trying to prove myself to trying to learn as much as I can, like a sponge. So I went around to people asking powerful questions, asking them to show me the ropes, and asking them to, and I also carefully choose people that I want to be my mentor. And the people that I chose are people who I believe are probably 2 steps ahead of me in the game. Not necessarily super duper successful people, because I think to myself, if I'm going to choose these people as my mentor, what do I also have to value add to them? So I go in also with a service mindset, not just to take, but also to give, right? So I ask people who are probably 2 steps ahead of me in the game, like, can they take me under their wings as a mentor? And in return, I serve them. So what I did was I volunteered to go to their events, not paid, and to help them, just help out in any way I can. For example, help them carry the mics, help them to video record their speeches, help them to distribute workbooks and stuff like that. But in the process, I get to learn. I get to watch how they actually carry themselves, how they actually talk to stakeholders, and from there I learned the process of how to really market myself, sell myself, and to be able to book relevant gigs. And it's through one of these mentors who I got my first overseas gig. I remember she invited a pool of us to her home, have a tea party, and just ask us, hey, I have this upcoming project, and I would like to select one or 2 of you to go deliver this program. And she asked everyone to introduce themselves. And everyone started sharing about their 20 years of experience in this field. And again, you see the theme is a repeated theme. I was feeling really small. And when it came to my turn, I shared my story. I shared that I was silenced as a child. I was bullied. I always felt I was not good enough. I was always compared with other people. And so what I bring to the table is not necessarily years of experience, but what I bring to the table is a work ethic that I'm willing to work and do whatever it takes to make it work. And secondly, because of what I've gone through, I understand what it feels like to be silenced and to be, and my mission is to give voice to the voiceless by using my sharing of my stories to give them permission to share theirs too. I thought that was inspired. I just kind of like pulled it out from somewhere, and I spoke from the depth of my heart. And to my surprise, I was chosen. It wasn't a very highly paid gig, but I remembered the day where I realized I was chosen. I was so excited. I booked my air ticket. I packed my bag 1 week in advance, and I landed in Manila. It was in Manila. And it was my first ever overseas speaking gig. I was like, that day, it was a turning point in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And that was the first one of many speaking gigs abroad. Wow. But this story is amazing. And you really took us through the story and the hero's journey of you finding your message, right? Which is completely in line with your life experience. It's not some message, that you created in vitro, right? No, it's completely authentic and aligned to you. That is amazing. And I love how, getting on a meta level, I love how you took us through the various phases of your journey. And then, of course, to the outcome as well, which is the embodiment and which is your mission. Love it. Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, Coen. Yes. So, yes. So tell us maybe a little bit about you speaking on cruises, because I think this is every public speaker's dream. Like and you got to bring your wife along as well, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is very interesting, right? It's like previously I was sharing that I was really, just really working very hard to prove myself as a speaker and everything. And there was one moment in time when, and this is a sad moment actually, back in 2014, I had a breakup. With a girl I really loved, or at that time I thought I really loved her a lot, and it really affected me badly. So after that breakup, she went back to her ex, right? And so for me, I was like, man, it's like, that sucks, of course. But what really I was feeling was, I wasn't really having enough fun in my life. And her ex, right, what he represented was adventure, a sense of fun, adventure, possibilities. Whereas for me, it was just work all day. And not just that I've neglected her. I think what I really needed to do was to bring more joy and fun in my life. And 2014, right, I was in my early 30s, was working my ass off. I was mildly successful. Well, I wouldn't say very successful, but I wasn't really having fun. And part of that whole process was a friend of mine shared with me these opportunities to go on cruises, to speak and everything. And earlier on, I was very dismissive of it. I was thinking to myself, speaking on cruises, they don't pay you, right? But you get a free cruise. But it's like, since they don't pay, like, why should I be prioritizing that, right? Because I am working my ass off to get paid as a speaker, to pay my bills, right? So, but at a point in time when I had this realization that I needed to have more fun in life, because having fun is very much part of being a human being, actually. Because all work and no play, right? I mean, it sounds so cliche, but when I was all working and not playing, it also affected my soul wasn't alive. I was not buzzing at all. I wasn't flourishing. I don't have the twinkle in my eyes when I speak. And I don't feel like very connected with myself at all. And that actually affected my business, right? It's like people wouldn't be inspired by a person who is not inspired. People wouldn't be, moved by a speaker or trainer who isn't the embodiment of, what it really means to be human being. So that's the reason why I decided to ring up the speaking agent and say, hey, can I get placed on a cruise ship, and I'd like to give this a shot. And I don't know if I should go on and tell this story about my first ever cruise speaking experience.
Please.
Do you want to share? Should I share that?
Please, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so here I was, right, really excited. It was a 19-day itinerary, sailing from Singapore to Australia, Sydney, and we were going through several places like Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. It was probably a trip of my lifetime, right? So I was like really excited. And so I asked at the time I was in my early 30s, right? And I was like, I just came off a breakup, and I was reading a lot of books about relationships. And so I asked my cruise speaking agent, like, what speeches should I give, right? What topics should I talk about? Since I'm going to be an enrichment speaker, I cannot be talking about serious stuff like marketing, branding, or sales, because these people are holiday makers. They don't want to be learning that, right? So she says, why don't you share something about relationships? It's like how different people look at relationships, different personality types. And I was like, okay, sure, I can do that. So I prepared my speech, I prepared my slides, and I went on board. To my horror, I realized that everybody on the ship, and I don't really mean any disrespect, right? They were retirees. They were in the 60s, they were in the 70s. And they were, and they're from the Western world, right? And I felt really, again, you see the common theme, right? I felt, again, really, really small. I had a bad case of imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? 30-something-year-old Asian boy nursing a broken heart. Who am I to tell these people about relationships? And I was trying to, break the ice, talk to some of them and ask them, about relationships. And they were telling me stories of their grandchildren and 30 years of marriage, 40 years of marriage, 50 years of marriage. And I'm like, I really thought to myself, oh my God, get me out of here. And it really showed, right? On the first speech, I was so nervous. The slides didn't work. And you see this auditorium, right? This theater, on this cruise ship, you have this big theater where they have the evening shows. Must have been around 200 people. And within 5 minutes, they all left. And there were only 5 people left. 5 people left. That was the worst moment in my life for a long, long time. I totally bombed. It was so bad. I felt like, I feel like telling them, you know what, just let me off the next port of call, and I'm just going to buy my own air ticket home. I'm going to pay the compensation to the cruise company and says, I'm out of here. But before I get to the next port of call, I got 2 more speeches to do. And it's like, I have nowhere to go unless I jump off overboard, right? That's not exactly sorry. I dropped my earpods. That's not exactly a very palatable option as well. So I needed to bite the bullet, and I had to stay. And I recall this experience when I did my first speech. It's okay, it bombed, never mind. On my second speech, the same 5 people showed up. And one of the couple came up to me after that speech and say, Coen, we really like what you shared. Can we speak to you? Wow. And so, okay, great. We spoke, there are plenty of time. We have 19 days on a cruise ship, right? And they shared with me, we are married for 30 years. When we arrive in Sydney, we're going to go straight to the lawyer and we're going to file for divorce. And I remember saying to them, wait a minute, hold your horses. And just talk to me, right? So I listened to them. They tell me the story. They share what their challenges are about. I wouldn't share the details of their challenges, right? But I'm just going to, long story short, I listened to both of them. And I told the man that, you needed to make some changes, so that you can open up your heart and allow your wife in. And I remember the wife was so happy. She's like, yes, that's the solution, honey. And I turned to the wife and I says, lady, I'm not done. You also have to play your part. And she's like, what? I'm not a problem. She's the problem. And I said, therein lies the problem. Because if you think each other is a problem, that is the problem. And I also gave her some suggestions on how she's overcompensating in order to get her husband's love. And I said, sometimes you don't have to push so hard. You just need to hold back. You just need to be yourself and let him be the man in the house. And so long story short, they took my suggestions on board. On the penultimate day, on day 18, before we arrived in Sydney, I bumped into them again in the ship somewhere in the restaurant, and they came up to me and says, "Coen, we want to say thank you to you because you saved our marriage."
What?
And that was the moment I realized, right? I mean, I have a visceral reaction to this whole thing. I'm like, man, I am not married for 30 years. I'm not even married, right? But I can save their marriage of 30 years. And I just realized that humans will be humans, will be humans, will be humans, and will have human problems. And my empathy is what allowed me to listen, to understand, and to be able to help them understand each other better. And I realized that I'm never too young, never too small, never too insignificant to make a difference. And that gave me such a shot in the arm in terms of confidence. Previously, I always had issues with authority figures. When I meet with people who are CEOs, if your title is big, I'm like, oh my God, I immediately become small Coen. And whenever I meet with people who are way older than me in age because they have more life experience than me, I straight away become small Coen. But that was the day I realized that I don't have to make myself small. I have to stand tall because what I have is enough. And that was really, I never imagined doing that on a cruise ship. I was just there for holidays to see the world. I wasn't there to transform my life, but that was a transformational moment for me as well.
Wow, so much so that now CEOs are your clients of yours, right? So you usually work with CEOs now on basically on leadership. You're an executive coach as well. You do many things, and one of them is also executive coaching and leadership coaching. This is amazing. Wow. I am speechless, and I love the way you tell stories, which is actually, storytelling is one of your, let's say, strengths, right? So how many stories do you have? How many signature stories, let's say, do you have that you bring into, I don't know, your interviews and your speeches and so on? What is your portfolio of signature stories?
I don't actually. I mean, I have so many stories that, they are all in my memory bank. I really do actually have a story. I actually lost count. I have an Excel spreadsheet, to tell the truth. I'm a very creative person, right? And as you can see, I'm kind of like improvise. I'm also an improviser, right? I'm also an improv theater practitioner, an applied improv practitioner. And but I actually make a real conscious effort to actually file these stories into an Excel spreadsheet. And I call this my story bank. So they are useful for keynote speeches, social media, when the right moment, right, when I see a teachable moment, I always share the story. And for example, when I have to give a feedback to my team members, instead of telling them, hey, you need to be more confident, you need to be more engaging, you shouldn't be so withdrawn and all that, I always tell them stories of my own experience and tell them how I overcame it. And so that's how I kind of like cushion the feedback and teaching for people that I work with. So I have many stories that I committed to my memory, but I also have it somewhere in the spreadsheet so that I can repurpose them. Yeah, but I think I find stories incredibly powerful as educational tool, as connection tool. And I think the essence of being a great storyteller is actually being a great listener, because it's not so much of I have a story to share and hey, listen to my story. I don't like talking at people. I don't like talking to people. I like speaking for people. And when I am on stage and as a speaker, I have a moral obligation to let my stories give voice to other people, because as a speaker, I am in a leadership position. People listen to my stories and they go, oh my God, like this guy's story is very much like my own. It's like he's sharing his thoughts, his sentiments about the situation exactly the way I would have done. And so when I do that, it becomes very freedom giving. And to people, they feel like their voice is heard indirectly. So I always listen to people's stories and try to find similarity and bridges between their stories and my own. And therefore that allows me to know that my story lands. My story is relevant. It's not just a story for the sake of telling a story.
Absolutely. Wow. And if I were to ask you, Coen, what your favorite story is from your, let's say, Excel spreadsheet?
This cruise ship story is one of my favorite, personally, because it is not expected. It is unexpected. Like I said, I was there on a cruise ship, just trying to see the world in a very fun way, from a different perspective. But that unexpected transformation has given me that confidence. And of course, since then, I've done several cruise speeches. I've met many people, many friends, and I really enjoy talking to people who are more advanced in years, because they have so much stories to share with me. They have so much to teach me about the world. They have so much collective wisdom in them, that I just enjoy listening to them, even just over drinks or over dinner. And some of them we have become friends, so much so that they've even invited us to go, my wife and I, to go and stay with them. In 2016, I went to stay with a couple in a part of Australia that is like not exactly very well known. It's sort of like in the suburbs, 3 hours away from Sydney. These are places that I personally wouldn't go myself, because I wouldn't even know that there's such a place, right? But they invited us to stay with them for 2 weeks. They opened up their homes to us. They brought us around, and it's like we had the time of our life, right? So I say this with some sadness, because during COVID-19, the female actually passed away. So yeah, so that was really, really poignant moment for me as well. But I really feel so touched that I was able to have that connection with people like that.
Yes,
so
absolutely. And that happened recently as well. Sorry to hear, by the way. Oh my God. I hope you're still in touch with the husband. And having lovely people that open their home and their heart to you and take you around has recently happened as well in Canada, right? It's just a few months ago. So it wasn't just, right? It wasn't just one case. I mean, this keeps repeating, and it of course speaks to you and the way that you are able to relate to people and build relationships with them. You magnetize them, people love you, and then they open their homes and hearts and families to you and your wife. Do you want to tell us maybe about your experience, your recent experience in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, when you share that, when you're saying that, right, it touches my heart a lot, and it's something that it's taken me a long time to come to terms with, to really accept that, hey, I'm a magnetic person. For a long time, I haven't felt that way. So I mean, yeah. So when I was in Canada, of course, I love being in Canada, because it's a vast country, lots of nature, a slower pace of life compared to Singapore. And so I just basically reached out to friends, right? And I asked friends of friends, say, hey, I'm going to be passing by. Do you want to catch up? And some of them even just saw my Facebook post that says, hey, I'm going to Canada and these are my places. And the people who live in those cities reached out to me on Messenger, on Facebook Messenger, and says, hey, I saw your post. I see they are coming by my hometown. Can I take you out for dinner or something? And on which days are you going to be here? So, and it's just wonderful experience, because like I said, again, when you travel to a place that you don't really know a lot about, you probably just do some Google research, and you probably head out to places where typical tourists go to, right? Or even typical restaurants where that's listed high on TripAdvisor. But no, when I was there, they took a friend of mine took me to her farm, where she does equine therapy. So she has this special practice of coaching leaders by letting them ride on horses. And horses are so empathetic and so sensitive to human beings' emotions, right? And so the feedback from the horses, the interaction that they have with the horses, is very, very therapeutic and very, very how do I say, insightful for the human beings themselves. And so she has this practice, and she took us out of Ottawa, out into the country, about an hour's drive away, to her farm, where she keeps the horses, and where she takes these leaders out on equine therapy. And I actually got to spend some time with her horse, right? And I also get a chance to experience what it feels like to interact with a horse, because there were times when I was supposed to guide the horse to move towards a direction, but I was having a lot of insecurity inside myself. I was having a lot of doubts, and I'm like, is this horse going to suddenly, like attack me or anything like that? So because of my own insecurity, I wasn't able to fully lead the horse. It wasn't until I really calmed down, breathe, and be very calm and composed that I was able to lead the horse in the right direction. And so these are experiences that I would never ever imagine having had if I wouldn't know anybody in that city or in that place. And so to me, that is very much part of why I travel, because it's not about just the food, the shopping, the place, but it's really about the stories and understanding a place from the lives of the people who live there. And so that was really enriching for us.
Absolutely. Wow, this is amazing. So you were able to create all of these relationships all over the world and this amazing network as well. That's great. So basically being a public speaker has a lot to do, and especially a public speaker that's constantly traveling, has a lot to do with networking, right?
Yes.
Yes. And also being a business owner has a lot to do with networking, to the point that you told me the other day that actually in your business, you don't even do any promotion. Just, clients just come to you through word of mouth, referrals, and so on.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yes.
Exactly. I think the key is really your best marketing is your last speech, is your last work, your last piece of work. So do every piece of work. Like I said, right, my attitude towards speaking is not, it's easy to get sucked up by the whole glamour of, speaking, traveling the world, speaking on big stages, getting applause, standing ovation. Even speakers, my colleagues, my fellow colleagues, fellow speakers, tend to also talk in these terms, right? So, oh, I just got a standing ovation the other day. Hey, I just got this the other day. And I mean, I want to be a bit controversial here, but that way of talking really rankles with me, because the moment I know that I live for moments like standing ovations and everything, I know they feel great, right? But the moment I start thinking like that, my old friend, my ego is going to come back in again. So I always say that to be a speaker is a responsibility. To be a speaker, you're not here to impress people. So whenever I go for sales meetings with clients who is hoping to book me, and when clients started asking questions like, what makes you different? Who are you? Why should we choose you, and all that, impress us? I always turn the conversation around by telling them, here, look, I'm not here to impress you. It's easy to impress you. I mean, it's not easy to impress, but it's like, so what if I impress you? At the end of the day, do you just want to be impressed? No, right? You want to make real difference to the people, and that's the reason why you're engaging a speaker or a trainer, to come and help your people to grow, right? So I'm here to serve you. I'm not here to impress you, right? And so when I serve, I turn the tables around by asking questions like, what are some of your real challenges in your work, in your business? What are the challenges that your people are going through? What are some of the things that they're going? And I really do take the effort to go down to the floor and talk to the people, run focus group discussions before every speech. So there's a lot of work that goes into a speech, because as a speaker, you have a moral obligation to speak for the people who either don't have a voice, or don't know they have a voice, or have a voice but don't have the courage to speak up. And so when you are a speaker, you have the moral obligation to do that. I take it very seriously. I take every speech I give very, very seriously. So it sounds like it's work, right? But it's not work. I really enjoy this. And the reason why I enjoy this is because I really truly am curious about people. I really am truly empathetic towards the challenges that they have. And when I do this, I'm just using my superpowers, and I don't feel like I'm working, but I'm serving. And that's the key for me. That's really the key for me, because it's very enriching when people come up to you and say, hey, thanks for saying what you say, because it gives me a fresh perspective. I remember your stories. It gives me permission. And I think that people often don't say things like that, right? People want to go for the wins, like, I want to increase my sales. I want to get promoted, right? I want to reduce, my expenses or whatever. there's of course that business, outcome that's required for every speech or every training. But I think more importantly is all the in-between things, all the intangibles, like giving people permission to believe, giving people hope, giving people confidence in their own self and in their own voice. I think these are the things that really are the needle movers. These are the things that shift the needle for people. Because once they have that confidence, they have that hope, they have that voice, they have that courage, things change for them, right? I mean, they become better at their work. They start to believe, right? They start to see things from a totally different perspective. And then that's when all the other ROI will come. So I take the whole process pretty seriously. Yeah. But I like to have fun. Trust me, before every speech, I would have sleepless nights sometimes. I'll even be thinking about the speech when I'm showering. And on the way to the conference venue, if I'm on an Uber or whatever, I'm still thinking and thinking. And I often show up early at events because before I go on stage, I'll be there for 2-3 hours ahead, just to take in the atmosphere, see how the culture of the place is like, how the people are interacting, listen to other speakers if there were other speakers before me, so that I'm able to weave in the themes and the words that they use, and to reinforce their points as well, so that I will be able to seem as making a positive impact, and crystallizing the experience for them, instead of just another speaker coming to say one thing. Because we have all been to conferences where speaker A says A, speaker B says B, speaker C says C. At the end of the day, you take tons of notes, you have tons of ideas, but you don't even know where to start beginning to implement those ideas when you go back to work. You become overwhelmed. So I sometimes think very, very much about my role as a speaker within the event, within the larger scheme of things, so that if I can do just a little bit of things to enhance their experience and bring something to the event that they don't already have, then I will say I've done my job.
Oh my God, I love this. I love all of this. You're sharing so much with us, like the behind the scenes and the official stuff as well. Wow, so many different dimensions. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. And Coen, because unfortunately I see that we are approaching the end of our conversation, I'd like to ask you a question that I ask everybody, all of my guests, and they all respond in different ways, which of course makes the whole thing even more interesting. And it could be, some people take this question seriously, and some people are like, oh yeah, what a silly question. So let's see how you react.
Okay.
So, what is a question that I haven't asked you over the past 45 minutes, but I should have asked you?
What a profound question. I love this question. I actually ask this question on all my sales calls. I always ask my clients, like, what's one question I haven't asked, or what's one topic we haven't discussed that you feel we need to? And I think that's always a needle shifter, because sometimes people get caught up with the conversation that, they just wrap it up and move on, right? But they may have some hidden objections or everything like that. So, okay, back to your question. One question that you haven't actually asked me, right, maybe is this question, which is very profound. This question is, have you ever felt like giving up? And what caused you not to?
So Coen, have you ever felt like giving up? And if so, what stopped you from that? No, what caused you? No, sorry. No, but I would add something. So what caused you, right? The cause, but also we want to know what stopped you from giving up.
So
what caused you to give up, and what caused you not to give, what stopped you from giving up?
I'll be very honest with you. I wish to say I hope I have some big ideas to share, but actually no. What really stopped me from giving up is vanity and embarrassment, fear of embarrassment. if I were to give up on this whole thing, and then what will my friends say, right? What will my parents say? My parents will told you that speaking thing will never work out. So my own vanity, my own ego got in the way of me giving up, right? So I was telling myself, damn, I can't, I'll do anything, but I will not give up. But of course, when I find a reason to bounce back, there's always a message. Something always tells me what I have to share is important, and I shouldn't give up. And then, of course, we talked about this the other day as well when we spoke, right? We all have wounds, right? We all have, wounds in our heart and everything like that. And speaking should never be used as a personal therapy, because it's not. You're not a speaker in order to do your own catharsis, right? But paradoxically, the whole process of speaking actually is very cathartic, because you revisit certain experiences, and you have to pull out from a very, very deep place your personal stories, your personal experiences to share. And every time you go through that process, you either see a fresh way of looking at things, or whenever you do that, right, it's a part of you is peeled away, a part of your mask is taken off. And that to me was very rewarding, actually. It's part of also the other thing that really caused me to stay in the game, because it's extremely rewarding to be able to use your own pain as a service to other people, to give people permission to also be vulnerable and say, wow, I went through the same thing too. And now I have the courage and the hope that I too can overcome it. So that's the reason why I didn't give up.
Wow, which is amazing. Wow. And I love how generous you are, how altruistic you are. I mean, you are dedicating your whole career. Of course, there's ego involved, and it's something that you like doing, of course, but I see like a much stronger part represented by your mission, and you wanted to help people and really make a difference and inspire them. So thank you so much for being in this profession, and also for being here on the Personal PR Show today. Coen, before you go, I'd like to ask you for a promise. Will you please come back to the Personal PR Show to talk about other things? Because today, as we said, we covered the angle of being a speaker that is traveling the world all the time, right? But we have so many different angles to cover. For example, storytelling. We should do a deep dive with you on storytelling, and maybe also like the amazing work that you're doing with people to find their voices. You're working with celebrities, you're working with CEOs, and we would think that these people have already uncovered, right, and defined their voice, but are actually still looking for it, and then do it so with you, right? So I'd love to hear about that as well. So would you be willing to come back to the Personal PR Show?
It's funny because you did mention something in your Facebook recently. Was it, if you get us back on the show, it must mean that you've done a pretty good job. And so I take this as a compliment, like I've passed the audition.
Yes,
I was like,
absolutely.
Yeah, of course it will be a privilege to do so.
You're not just invited to one of the next episodes of the Personal PR Show, you're invited to many of the next episodes of the Personal PR Show. Please come back once a month. Coen on the Personal PR Show. You have your column on the Personal PR Show.
Wow. Can I also just give a shout out? Like, if you, I would like to really just say, I also have a podcast, right, which is Wholehearted, right, the Wholehearted podcast. And I'd just like to ask your viewers, right, to go to Spotify and search Wholehearted with Coen Tan, COENTAN, and just listen, give a subscribe, and listen to my podcast as well, because it will help the podcast be ranked higher and go out to more people. Wholehearted podcast is actually just a personal hobby project of mine to help people to live a wholehearted life. Why I say that is because for a long time, a lot of people look at me and say, "Oh my God, Coen, you're so intense. You're so, you're so much energy and so enthusiastic." And I used to think it was a problem with me. It's like, why am I so intense? People intimidated by me. And I just realized when I was listening to Brené Brown's podcast, when she used the word wholehearted, and I'm like, hey, I am not intense. I'm not too much. I'm wholehearted. And wholehearted means so much to me because a lot of us, like I say, are wounded. And so we are not whole. And so wholehearted is about helping people to find the courage again, to be whole and to live life wholly, in a very holistic manner, right? It's like, whether is it that one thing that you always wanted to do, is that one enthusiasm that you had, a passion that you have, or like in my case, like becoming a more fun and adventurous, fun-loving person. That reclamation of that part of me, right, was part of how I became a wholehearted speaker and wholehearted person that I am today. So I'd like to encourage your viewers as well to go and give it a listen.
Absolutely, definitely, Coen. Thank you so much for this invitation. And we will be sure to include the link to your Spotify podcast. Is it Spotify, Apple, or everywhere?
Apple Podcasts, Apple
Okay,
Podcasts and Spotify. Yeah.
So we will be sure to include the link to that. So it's easier for our lovely viewers to just, click and then immediately connect with you. Cool. Awesome. We'll do that. Yes. And I will give it a listen as well. And I know that I'm going to be a guest on the show very soon. So
Yes, I'm looking forward to having you.
I'm super excited.
Grazie
Yeah.
mille. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Yes. So I'll see you soon, Coen. I'll see you on the Wholehearted podcast with Coen Tan, but I will also see you very soon back here on the Personal PR Show. Thank you so much. Has been amazing. And thank you guys. And I'll see you, I don't know, tomorrow. I don't know exactly when, but we do have another interview this week. So I'll see you next time for the next episode of the Personal PR Show. Bye, everybody. Bye, Coen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.